In this tutorial, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about this amazing drag and drop visual AI chatbot builder. I'm going to show you how you can create really unique AI chatbot experiences for your users, how to install this tool, which is entirely free, and most importantly, how to get it deployed and embedded into your own websites and web projects.
No code is the best in the whole wide world. No code, oh yeah, yeah. No code.
So the tool we're going to be using is called Flowise AI. If you come over to flowiseai.com, and there's a link in the description of the video below, you'll be able to find the installation instructions. But luckily, I'm going to go through that for you quickly now in the next minute or so that you'll be set up and ready to go and cut the learning curve in half. So if you just come over to Node.js.org, and again, the link will be in the description of the video, and download Node.js. That's your first step in this installation process. If you're not a coder, and if you're a no coder like myself, you probably will never have installed Node.js. If you're a coder, you probably already have this installed. If we now come back to Flowise AI, it gives you very brief instructions as to how to get started. For me as a no coder, I didn't find this overly useful because I didn't know even where to go to put these snippets in. But luckily, I'm here to give a little bit more information for no coders out there into how to actually access this really powerful tool. Where you need to go is on your computer, you need to find the command prompt. And where you find that is by going into your search bar and searching for command prompt. And once you have the command prompt, you'll open that up. And this is where you basically follow these instructions. So I'm going to install npm install -g Flowise. Now I've already installed it on my system, but what you would do is when you type that in, you simply hit enter, and you're probably going to need to wait a few minutes. There's going to be a big load of text that flows down through the screen here. And it's just basically installing the Flowise software onto your computer. And when that process is finished, it will let you know that it's finished. And then all you need to do is hit npx Flowise start. And once you hit that, what this is doing now is running the software that you've just installed. And it is, it's going to run it on a port 3000 essentially. And all that means is that you can access it through your web browser by simply going to localhost /3000 and going there. And now we've got Flowise running locally on our computer. This is our own private instance that is unique to your computer or your machine that you've installed it on. And you're now able to use this software completely free of charge and build as many chatbots as you like. And in the next part of this video, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to show you step by step how to build your very own custom knowledge-based AI powered chatbot. And we're going to go through this workflow here and show you how to use the Flowise drag and drop user interface, get this all set up and running. And make sure you stick around to the end, because we're going to show you, when you have this built out, how you can then take it from your private machine and push it into the cloud so that you can make a version of it available, not just for your own private use, but so that you can make it available for people on your website or inside of a web app that you might be building or anywhere online that you might want to use it, as opposed to just being local and personal to your use. So first, a brief overview of the Flowise AI interface. This is your main dashboard. You can add chat flows here. Each of these boxes represent an individual chat flow, and a chat flow is essentially a specific chatbot with a certain functionality or a certain ability that any of these chatbots you can use personally on your local machine, and you can interact with the chatbot as you have built it, and you can interact with it in real time as you're building it. And then also you can use any of these chatbots to deploy them and to have them embedded on your own web page or inside your own web app. And again, I'll show you how to do that later on in the video. Where I'd normally start is come into marketplaces, because it's got a huge amount of templates in here, and I'll show you a sample of the various use cases that you can use this tool to help you build really complex chatbot models and flows. Today, we're just going to start with this simple conversation chain. So this lets us preview the template. In this particular template, there's just 3 components. So each card here represents essentially a module or a component. This chain component is really what brings it all together. And a chain is basically, you can have various different types of chains. This one is a conversational chain, and it's basically allowing us to attach a language model or an OpenAI language model in this context, but you can use other language models, and we'll show you what you have on offer inside of Flowise when we get into it. It allows you to attach a memory. In this case, it's just using the buffer memory module, and the buffer memory is basically whereby it just stores the chat history. So that means usually it would save sort of the last 5 messages in the conversation and send that into the language model every single time that a user puts in a message, so that it has the context of the conversation and it can respond as if it is having a conversation with you. And then this one also allows you to attach in a document. And so we'll use that today in our use case. We're going to use this to build out essentially a website FAQ type chatbot, so that you can install it on your website and users can go to your website. Instead of reading your entire website, they can just ask questions directly to your chatbot. And it's a pretty good starter use case. We'll then in future videos show more complex builds inside of Flowise, and would love to hear if you've got any particular use cases or any particular things that you're trying to build a chatbot around. One thing that I'd love to show next is how to actually chat with your Airtable base, for example, and how to use an Airtable component in here to basically feed data from Airtable into your large language model as and when needed, so it pulls only the relevant bits based on the user's prompt. Another use case would be building up a large data store, a large knowledge base around a particular topic. And it could be anything from sort of health to legislation to anything where there's just reams and reams of information that you don't necessarily want to feed the entirety of it in a single document, like in this use case, but you want to have a system so that you can query that data, use OpenAI features to basically find the relevant bits of information inside of your knowledge base, and then feed that into your language model at the point of the prompt being asked. Anyway, going on a tangent, next step is to click this Use Template button. Okay, so that now creates a working version of the template into the workspace here that we can now configure for the purposes of building our chatbot. And so what we'll do first is we will bring in the document module, because it's the only one that's not yet connected, and it'll give us an opportunity to show you just the menu over here and the different options that you have. We'll then configure the OpenAI API key, and I'll show you where to get that. And we'll then show you how to troubleshoot and to actually test the chatbot in the workspace environment here. And then after that, we'll move on to the deployment and actually getting it into a live web page and getting it functioning. So if we come over here, we're going to look for a document loader component. When we click this plus, it shows you all of the different types of categories of components that you can have. So you can see there's agents, there's chains, there's chat models, there's document loaders, and that's where we're going to need to go. And these are all of the different components that can be used in a chatbot build. And as you can imagine, they can get relatively complex over time. In this one, we're just going to have 4 modules. So if we come down to document loaders, and I'm going to try and find just the text file loader, just as sort of a very basic working example here, where every time you see one of these cards, it's going to have something down in the bottom right hand corner. And if it's blue, it means that it's available to attach to something else. And so you'll see here, if we just zoom in there, this one is looking to be attached to a document node up here. So we're going to actually just click and drag that up and connect it to our chain. So at the moment now, our chain has our language model, the memory, and then the document down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to my homepage here, and we're actually just going to copy all of this and put it into a text file. So I've opened up Notepad here, and I'm just going to paste it in there. Doesn't really matter about formatting at all. And I'm just going to save this as a .txt file. So I've saved the file as no-code homepage.txt, and I can now close it out of it. And I've come back into the Flowise workspace here. And if I click upload file, I found the file on my desktop and I clicked it, and it's now uploaded here. And the only thing that now won't let this work is that I don't yet have the OpenAI API key. So I'm going to come over to OpenAI. You're going to need to log in here. I'm going to go into the API selection. And then if you come over here to the top right and find your profile, it's going to have view API keys here. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a new secret key, and I'll just call this Flowise 5. Create secret key. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to come back into Flowise here, and I'm going to drop that in there. I'm not going to change any of the settings here. I'm definitely going to keep it on 3.5 turbo because it's far, far, far cheaper than GPT-4. And when you're just playing around and testing with things, you definitely don't want to be using GPT-4 because it will start to rack up costs, whereas GPT 3.5 turbo you can feed a huge amount of prompting into it and only incur sort of cents, or, you know, not too much of a spend. So you can play at it and be sure that you won't be breaking the bank. So now that we've done all of that, your chatbot won't work yet over here until you've actually clicked save. So I'm going to click save. It's actually asking me for the name of the chat flow, and I'm just going to call it simple conversation with text doc, and just save it as that. And it's now saved. So now you can test as you're building your chatbot. Okay, so we're going to ask it a question that I suppose proves that it's using the information that we just drew from the web page. So I'm going to ask it something that a user to the web page might ask, like, what services do you offer? And see what it comes up with. Training, consultancy, one-to-one online community. So that looks pretty spot on. If we go to the website, we have this section here. We offer training, one-to-one consultancy, and we run an online community. So yeah, that seems to be doing a really good job there. And you know, this is a really effective and simple way to build a customer service type chatbot for your website. So we'll move on to the deployment now of this chatbot out of our sort of local environment and onto a web hosted platform. And then from there, we're going to show you how to take anything that you've built from the local environment and how to put it into your now web hosted environment so that you're able to utilize whatever scenarios or models that you build locally on the internet, essentially, or anywhere that you want to use it, because we can't use it directly from our local machine because there's no server, there's no API access to this local instance of it. And that's why we need to deploy and use a web instance. So to deploy the app, you're going to need to come and set up a GitHub account. GitHub is a repository essentially whereby coders come in here and they store all of their code, and they allow other coders and developers to share the code. We won't need to know anything more about GitHub other than how to set up and sign up an account on it, and then how to take the application that we want to use in the next step. So if you come here, click sign up, when you're logged in, you can then just type, and what we're looking for is Flowise, and that should come up top here. So it's this one here. Click on Flowise. And then what you're going to want to do is just click this button here called fork. And what that's going to do is it's actually just going to make a complete copy of Flowise onto your GitHub, so that you can now use the Flowise software wherever it is that you would like to use it. So if we just go create fork, and it's now running that in the background. While that's running, I'll show you the next tool that we're going to need to use to actually get the app deployed and so that we can actually use it online. And it's this app called render.com. This app, again, we will sign up and start using on the free plan. So if we go get started, I'm going to sign in with my Google account and I'm going to hit complete sign up. So when you log into your render account for the first time, what we're going to want to do is create a web service. So we click new web service, and I'm going to connect the GitHub that we just set up. So connect GitHub. I'm already logged into my GitHub account. And so I'm just going to go authorize render. You are being redirected. I've connected my thing, and it's going to say which repositories. I'm going to say select repositories, and I'm going to find Flowise and click that. I'm then going to click install. Brings you back to this screen, and you just go new web service again. We're now connected to our Flowise repository. So click connect here, and you need to just give it a name and a region. So I'm just going to call it no code, i.e. No Code Ireland chatbot. Region, I'm just going to choose, none of these are overly close to me. EU Central probably is the closest. And I go with that. If you're in the US or if you're in Asia, probably choose one of these other options. It'll probably be quicker for you. So come down here now to your runtime, and you will need to change this to Node. And then if we just change it to yarn install here, leave yarn build as is, and then down here yarn start, and that should all be fine exactly as is there. And I'm going to actually sign up on the starter plan here at $7 a month, and the reason I'm going for a paid plan is for persistence. So persistence is the concept whereby you want the data that you actually create inside of your Flowise application to persist, meaning that it will live on every single time that you come back to that app to use it again. It will have everything that you have created previously saved in there, and it won't be deleted every time that you return to the app, essentially. If you go for the free plan, currently Render doesn't allow the persistence feature under the free plan, and so that's why I'm going with the $7 per month. If you do want to just use Flowise for just building things purely without actually publishing it or deploying it online, you can always install it locally on your machine and use it as much as you want, and it will persist for as long as you have that computer. And then when you are ready to deploy something, you can then come to a service like Render and deploy it to the cloud and start paying $7 a month. Or you could find a different service, for example, Replit, Amazon Web Services. There's lots of other hosting providers, and you might have one that you prefer already, or you might not have heard of any of these types of tools before, and in which case Render is a great option in terms of simplicity and in terms of it working well with Flowise. So after a few minutes, your instance will show as live, and that's when you know everything has worked and that you're up and running. And now to access your Flowise instance in the cloud, all you need to do is click your URL here, and it should open your Flowise interface. You can see this is a brand new version of Flowise AI, so anything that we've built already in the desktop version is not yet presented here. However, it's very easy to import chat flows from your desktop version into the cloud version. And when you load it into the cloud version, you can now use it for deployment online in any web project or web app that you would like to use it in. Before we do that, what I think we should do is talk about the persistence point that I spoke about earlier, which is whereby any chat flow that you have inside of your cloud Flowise AI instance, you don't want that chat flow to be lost every time that you go outside of Render and you log out of Render, and then you come back into Render and log back in and you start back up Flowise, or you click on this URL and you're back into Flowise. There's a risk that your chat flow, the memory that stores the chat flows, might actually be lost, so the actual chat flows that you've built may be lost. And that's this whole important concept of persistence. So we should go and set that up now that we're on a paid plan. And if you come into disks, this is where you can do it. And you simply click add disk. We'll just leave it as my disk. And then the path here, you're going to want to use this specific path. Leave the size at 10 gigabits and click save. We now need to go into the environment section here, and we need to add 3 new environment variables. These are the 3 environment variables that we need: database path, API key path, and log path. And the values for each of them are opt/render.flowise. Same for this one for API key path. And then the last one is the same, but we add on logs at the end. Once we've done that, we'll hit save changes. The other thing that's really important to update if you're going to use Flowise AI in the cloud rather than locally on your machine is that anybody that now has this URL can essentially access your instance or your cloud instance of Flowise. And so if you've been starting to build out chat flows in here, and you have API keys possibly in those chat flows, anybody that comes along to this URL address will be able to get into your workings and see what you're doing. They'll be able to basically act as if they are you at this website. So what we should do there is go back into Render, and we'll actually create a username and a password so that anybody that lands on this web URL will need to know the password to be able to log in to start actually working on your chat flows or looking at your chat flows. So we come back over to Render and we come down and go into environment. So these are the 2 additional environment variables that we'll need. The first one being Flowise_password and the second one being Flowise_username. And you just fill in whatever you want. So I've made password and username Jamie, and you use whatever details you would like. And that's what you're going to be asked to input every time you go to your cloud instance of Flowise. You're going to be asked for whatever username and password that you've input here, and only you will know that, so only you can work in your Flowise account. And hit save changes. The last step is to go to manual deploy, cleared build cache, and deploy. It is now redeploying, so you'll have to wait just another few minutes while it redeploys, and we'll come back in just a second. So the instance is updated now, and I've clicked back into the link, and it asks me for a username and password. So I've entered my details and I hit login, and I'm now back into my Flowise AI dashboard in the cloud. And so now all we need to do is take the chat flow that we built in our local environment and upload it into our cloud environment. And the way to do that is if you come back to the local environment here on localhost, we'll find our chat, which is here, simple conversation with text doc. And what we're going to do is go to settings here and go export chat flow. Okay, so that's exported the chat flow now. So we're going to come back into the cloud version of it, and rather than clicking on settings, we're actually going to click on add new, because this is how you actually add an individual chat flow. And if we go over to settings now up here and go load chat flow, we found our file and we double clicked it, and it is now uploaded as an untitled chat flow. So we'll just save this as simple chat with text doc and click save. Okay, and now that is saved. And if we click save here, and I'll just double check that everything is working okay. What services do you offer? Okay, so it didn't work, and it's obviously because I need to actually input the OpenAI API key again, and I also need to upload the document again. So bear with me 1 second. Okay, I've done both of those things now. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to clear the chat, clear, and I'm going to come back in and I'm going to ask it the same question. What services do you offer? And let's see how we go. So it seems to be working. One-to-one consultancy service, looking to learn. Our goal is to teach business owners how to use no code to build. Okay, and that all looks really good. And it looks like it's coming directly from the web page. So that's brilliant. So if we just hit save, and that's essentially it. So now if you want to actually use it inside of a web page, what you do is you click this little blue button here in your cloud hosted version. And I usually just use this embed pop-up HTML version. And so you literally just copy this snippet here. And my website is built inside of Software. So I'm going to go into the Software Studio and I'm going to add a custom code block. The custom code block is under the static category here. Here's the custom code block. I'm going to add it in. It's going to appear up here, and I'll paste in the exact snippet that came directly from the Flowwise cloud version from this blue section here. And then if I come back and if I just hit publish, and in software, this is probably software specific. I'm just going to get rid of the padding on that code block actually, so that you don't see a big white space at the top of the screen. And if we hit publish, and if we come back here, and there's currently no chatbot on the site. So if we refresh it, and let's just see, it's now showing on the site. And if we just go, what services do you offer? See how it goes. For training, one-to-one consultancy and online community. Looks absolutely perfect. So look, that brings us to the end of today's tutorial. If you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate if you'd click like on the video and consider subscribing to the channel. Also, if you'd like to see any future content in this area or any future tutorials around chatbots or no code or anything like that, let me know and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much for watching and talk to you soon.